Your body remembers everything your mind tried to forget, but remembering doesn't have to mean reliving. It can mean reclaiming. In this week's episode, we're talking about the invisible link between childhood trauma and fertility. Why do so many women struggle to conceive when everything just seems to check out when you're looking at lab results? Join me this week as I sit down with coach Riana Milne, and we take a look at just how important what happened in your childhood affects your journey to your own child. Hi, I'm Adrienne Irizarry. I'm an East Asian medicine practitioner who is passionate about women's health and helping women to live their best lives. My goal is to put you in the driver's seat of your health, offering holistic solutions for a symptom-free life. Statements made in this program are for educational purposes only and not intended as a substitution for medical consultation or advice. We do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. This podcast is inclusive and welcomes all gender identities. The focus of the program is on biological function, and we will use the term women throughout, but it is referencing physiological and social challenges for biology, not identity. Come as you are, I am happy you're here and welcome all performances of identity. I hope you find something helpful in this show. Welcome back to another episode of the Reproductive Rebel podcast. I am so excited to be joined today by Riana Milne. Welcome to the show, Riana.
Hi, Adrienne. I'm so happy to be here. And hello, everyone. Hope you're all having a beautiful day.
So for those who aren't familiar with your incredible work, can you share with our audience who you are and what you do?
Oh, wow. Where do you want me to start? I've been doing this work for years. Well, it really started way back in my teens when I lost a very dear childhood friend. And I wanted to go to counseling. And my mother said, no one in this family will ever go to counseling. So I turned to books and I started reading about the mindset for success and how spirituality can heal. And that started my journey of the passion of wanting to help people when they're going through a hard time. Counseling way back for us baby boomers was a stigma. Not anymore, thank goodness, right? And then I lost a college friend. She was sadly murdered by her boyfriend. So I swore to Michael and Corinne, who I lost, that I would turn around and make other people's lives better in their memory. So that's how it initially got started. But by my 20s, I was teaching Mindset for Success. 26, I had a model and talent agency and school where small town people of Erie, PA wanted to be, and stages, TV, soap opera, films. And how did they get their Mindset for Success plus talent? So they might have had talent, but if they didn't have the mindset to perform, they weren't going to get where they wanted to be. So that's where I say I started my Mindset for Success journey, teaching that in my 20s. And then I was able to go back to school for my master's in psychology and got a triple master's in clinical and counseling psychology. By 2009-10, I went to RCI for coaching because I really love the coaching model. It's very educational. Is very proactive, teaching you what you need to try to do, doing it, finding success, and then building on that success. So the coaching model was incredible for me, and I was very passionate about it. So I took 2 years of coaching certification education. And then I went through 2 love traumas, one when I was young in my 20s, and then another one at that time period. And I'm looking through all my psychological journals. I'm like, what does he have? What does he have? Why would he do this? And there was no answers. So I went into the deep psychological journals, and that's where I found the huge impact of unhealed, unconscious childhood trauma and the impact it has on adults in life, love, business, and overall success and happiness, even health. So that's when I said, I have to get this message out to the world because no one was talking about it. Mm-hmm. Childhood trauma, that term was not even in my triple master's education in year 2000. So we weren't using that term way back then. So in 2012, I developed the childhood trauma checklist, which anyone can find for free on my website. It's my name, rianamilne.com. And it's a very simple, easy 10-question test that once I know what people's childhood traumas were, how they're showing up in their adult life, then I put the puzzle pieces together to help heal that trauma in a holistic way, mind, body, spirit, and then get them into the life they desire and the love that they deserve. So that's how it all happens. And from there, I have a podcast, Lessons in Life and Love. I have 13 books, a couple #1 bestsellers. The one I think is everyone's favorite is Love Beyond Your Dreams. Break free of toxic relationships to have the love you deserve. So that's part of my curriculum. Everything I write is always educational to help people heal and transform their lives.
I love that. So with all of that, everybody, you see why I just had to have this amazing person on this show. I love this. So this is an area that I've wanted to talk more about on Reproductive Rebel, and I haven't had anybody with your expertise to be able to really dive into the impact of childhood trauma and how that shows up in adulthood, but particularly on the fertility journey. Because there's a lot that happens when people are trying to decide that they want to become parents. And then depending on how that journey unfolds, sometimes that trauma stands as a physical barrier to conception because there is a huge energetic component to that. So if you could walk us through your research in this area and how these things impact this journey.
It's really heavily related. So thank you for asking that question. I've worked with quite a lot of singles and couples that had challenges with reproductive journeys, and healing the childhood trauma was a huge part of them being able to conceive. Having spiritual faith was a big part of it. So it's so interrelated. It's really quite interesting. But if you don't heal your original childhood trauma, and by the way, most people think I didn't have trauma growing up. I had a few bumps in the road, but the facts came out in 2021. When I did my research in 2012, it was 90% of a huge sample. I could find 90% admitting from the top 10, yes, I had some of those. But in 2021, other research has come out that says 100% of us have had childhood trauma. So it's just really understanding what they were and what they went through. Because as children, we normalize things. Why do we do that? We do it so that we can have a life with some joy. And then as children, we have these little ways to cover up. We tell stories that our mom and dad are doing great or better than they are, or the hero stories and those kinds of things. But let's get back to health. So childhood trauma impacts us in 7 life areas. So this is what I call the map, the 7 areas of the impact of childhood trauma. The first one is our physical health. So sleep disorders, eating disorder, poor immune functioning like fibromyalgia or Epstein-Barr virus. When your body is under stress for a long period of time, your immune system just weakens. And I actually discovered at age 36, I had Epstein-Barr virus, which is chronic fatigue syndrome. And people didn't believe it because I ran 5 businesses and I'm very active and energetic. But then I found all the holistic remedies to help me with that. So that's when I really started getting to holistic health, researching that in my 30s. But the cardiovascular disease, shorter lifespan, but also the thing is when cortisol is up, which is our stress hormone, causes fight, flight, or freeze. But it also defends everything else in the body, right? So if the person can't relax, conceiving is hard, right? So you have to really know that being able to calm yourself, meditation, a healthy diet, getting away from anything that's chemicals in our food, really getting to optimal health, mind, body, soul, spirit, what you eat, how you sleep, everything, and healing the past trauma is imperative, right, to conceiving. Okay, emotions. It affects our emotions. We have trouble regulating them. They're short-tempered, limited coping skills when there's trauma in the world. And how do we handle this trauma in our world going around us? Do we feel like there's nothing we can do, or can we still find happiness and joy in our life. So the increased stress, excessive worry, feeling hopeless, anything like that is under the emotion. That's category 2. Category 3 is how it impacts our relationships. So you could be attracting toxic partners that are always hurting you, being the dynamic of mom and dad, what they might have had, or how your parents related to you. There could be codependency, false negative assumptions about your partner. Here's an example. If you grew up with a very alcoholic, abusive father, for example, you may then, when you fall in love, expect the man to be perfect because you're expecting this prince to save you from what you grew up with. So these false expectations when your partner is not perfect, and working through that and accepting the humanness in yourself and your partner. Attachment problems, low trust, difficulty with peers, making friendships at all. So that's relationship category. The next one's under mental health. So having ongoing anxiety. That is a true sign that your childhood trauma is not yet healed. So people with ongoing depression, negative self-esteem, self-image, post-traumatic stress, anything under mental health, quick trigger anger, the negative mindset, always feeling the victim in life or in your relationship. Next category is under behavior. So how do you act? Can you act calmly under stress? Or do you turn to alcohol or other substances to escape? This is where addiction falls under this category. Risk-taking behavior, illegal activity, aggression, social withdrawal, hiding away at home, afraid to go out into the world to interact, to make friends. So this is all behavioral. Now, there's 2 categories that go for children. And I worked in the schools as well, from kindergarten all the way through college at every grade level. High school level, I was a school psychologist, but all the other levels, I was called a SAC, Student Assistance Counselor, which handles the emotionally upset child. So I had kids with ADHD, oppositional defiant, the bullies, the bullied, kids coming from traumatic homes. And I found, sitting on child study team at all my schools, that a lot of people were quick to say they have ADHD, when indeed the child was coming from a traumatic lifestyle at home. So I was like a woo counselor, where I was doing meditation in my office with the child. I was doing music therapy. I did behavioral modification, positive reinforcement when they did well. So I was it was called Miss Riana's relaxation room. And I said to my principal, do you mind if they just call me Miss Riana? Because I need these children to relate to me, so they'll talk to me, and then I can help heal their upset. Right? So even the tiniest child, a kindergarten child, handles emotions in various ways, and either shutting down, which we call the internalizer, or the externalizer. Teen, for example, is the runaway, the risky boyfriends, drinking and drugging. The internalizer as a teen will be in their room, shut in on video games, quietly cutting, self-mutilating themselves, or have suicidal thoughts. Right? So neither is healthy. And I want to encourage parents out there, if you're seeing these signs in your children, it's not a phase. It's a cry for help. Do get them a great coach that knows how to work with children and teens to help turn this around. So the 2 categories, brain development. So if the mother is under stress, if she's with a toxic partner who's verbally or emotionally abusing her, this baby could be born with a smaller brain size due to her cortisol being up. And then the baby is less efficient to process and develop on those normal milestones. They have this startle response when they're born. They have the high stress response. And it has been proven in research that it changes gene expression. So what does that mean? Here's an example of the study that they used. They found that the survivors of the Holocaust, their lineage under them were very high anxious people. Okay, because of the high anxiety these poor people experienced in the camps, right? So as a mom, it's really important as you're pregnant to stay calm and joyful and take time for the meditation and doing everything you can holistically to be healthy, mind, body, spirit. Then the other area it impacts children, which I was seeing in the schools a lot, was the impaired readiness to learn, difficulty problem solving, like they're called ADHD. They can't focus in school. Well, that's because mom and dad were fighting all night. The child wasn't sleeping. They're scared mom and dad are getting a divorce, and that's all they can think about in school. So there's language delays, problems with concentration, and poor academic achievement. So what does that sound? That whole category sounds like ADHD, right? So before putting your child on medication and jumping to that solution, get them with a great coach that understands childhood behavior and really helps the whole family with healing. Mom's healing, dad's healing from past trauma, healing their relationship, then healing the family relationship. This is what we call family systems therapy, because I'm both a counselor and a coach. But I do that for both. If I have a coaching client come into me, I always ask, how are your kids doing after this very traumatic divorce? Because I want to work with the mom or dad to help heal the child. Very important. And then they're like, oh my God, their grades are going up in school. They're more socially outgoing. They're excelling in sports. Yes, because the trauma has been taken out of the family. So that's the map. That's the 7 areas of impact. And you can see how important it is, starting from pregnancy to young childhood to how they're doing in school, then as teens, and then as adults.
Absolutely. Well, and as you were talking, this is so awesome. This is why I wanted to have this deeper dive conversation, is when you were talking about the smaller brain and the startle response in babies. It's one thing that people really marvel at when they see my son, who at the time of this recording is 8 months old. He is very outgoing and very into his world, and he doesn't startle really easy, and he smiles at everyone. But honestly, like, I was just so darn happy to be pregnant with him. I spent my entire pregnancy on cloud 9. And it made a huge difference. And people see that when they look at my son and they go, oh, like people say he actually looks different. And I agree. He behaves differently because of the environment that we were in when I was pregnant with him. So when I talk with my clients about preparing their bodies for pregnancy, it's so much more, everybody, than just looking at your labs and what is your hormone expression doing, and
Yes.
do you have enough vitamin D? Like, these things are important, but this right here, I feel like gets at the heart of where people struggle with blocks on their fertility journey, and then the subsequent outcome of health that you see in their children.
Yeah, it's so true. I'm a mother of 2 daughters, Alexi and Stefana, and a grandmother to 6, from 12 all the way down to 3. And as I was learning mindset, again, I was in my teens and 20s. So I grew up my daughters with the mindset for success. They were out of the house at 19. Alexi is a singer on 3 multi-platinum CDs, was a model, and on television, HGTV, E! Entertainment News. Stefana today is running the Florida Freedom to Read project and addressing Congress and being on CNN News. So how do you make your children successful? Mindset. And doing it from the day that they're born. And I now see my daughters doing this with my grandchildren. Okay. So now look at this lineage of mindset work and holistic healing and a calm and loving environment, and being proactive with your children, rewarding positive behavior.
And now a word from our Reproductive Rebel sponsor, Embody Space. Your cycle holds wisdom, and the Embody Space cycle tracking app helps you unlock it. Track your cycle in the only fully encrypted app designed to protect your most sacred data. Get daily guidance tailored to every phase, from bleeding to blooming, with rituals, herbs, lifestyle tips, dietary support, and more, all tailored for your body's natural rhythms, because your body's story is yours alone. Embody Space, your private portal to cycle wisdom. Download now and reclaim your rhythm. And now, back to the show.
My book, Live Beyond Your Dreams, From Fear and Doubt to Personal Power, Purpose, and Success. That has a whole parenting chapter, has a chapter for teens, because I turn teens around to have mindset. A lot of teens and people in their 20s today, young adults, are so worried in our world, and they should be. I mean, craziness is going on. But I remember that in every generation. During my daughters, there was 9/11.
Right.
So luckily they had the mindset to be able to put that over here and keep on their journey in a positive way and still be proactive to protect themselves, yet go for their dreams anyway, right? And then we can't let that world get us down and get us into a negative space. So learning, trauma healing, mindset work, super important for success for you and your family.
I love that. So if you were to recommend first steps, so people have heard this entire conversation so far, and I can already hear the gears turning in some people's heads, like, I have a blended family and I want to have a baby with the person that I'm with now. There's stuff that came in from past relationships in my blended family. Where do I even begin?
It is always education. Right? You can heal anything with education and learning. And that's why the coaching model works so well for my clients. So it's just getting really proactive and learning what you need to do and then getting the help you need in whatever area you're struggling in. I have a quote, you can't change what you don't know, acknowledge, or understand. And when I went through love trauma the second time, I'm like, I don't get why I get toxic partners. I'm really a good lady. I'm a great mom. I'm a teacher, I'm a coach. I try to spread love everywhere I go. Why do I get these partners? And that's what started my research. And my partner at that time, the second one, says, I don't know why I sabotage everything I love. And I'm like, my mind's spiraling through my psychology manual. And I said, I don't know why you do either. But it impacts not only me and you, but our children and the community and, you know, what he did. And I'm like, but I got to figure this out, because that's going to start my healing. And it was like a rainbow. I started uncovering all these journals when I was writing my books. I had papers all over my floor. Okay, I remember that research in that corner. I have to put that into my book. So there's over 300 pieces of research in Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams books. So I was so impassioned about this topic because I knew this could help so many people. And once you understand childhood trauma, then you can change it. So do you want to go into what are the top 10 traumas so people understand, did I have this or did I not?
I think that's a very logical place to go. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So when I go over the top 10 traumas, a couple things. One, there are more than them. Two, they go through at least 3 generations. Trauma, if you recognize you had trauma, your mom and dad had it, so did your grandparents. So childhood trauma goes through at least 3 generations. So I have to even look at the systems of mom and dad and the grandparents when I'm doing my healing work. Okay, and 3, this is not about shame or blame. We're not looking to blame mom or dad because most parents always do the best they know how. And 2, it's not about feeling guilty or ashamed because you're a child. You're just part of this environment. You just navigate it the way you know how in your tiny self, right? So this is the child that we also have to heal inside you. Okay, so going through the top 10. The first is, did you grow up with any addiction in the family? Being also an addictions counselor, I named 12 of them because these can impact family relations. So drugs, alcohol, sex, meaning you knew your parent was a cheater. A lot of kids hold that secret. Porn use of the parent, gambling, hoarding, spending, eating, gaming, TV watching, workaholism. So any of those addictions take priority in mom or dad. Two, what was the verbal messaging that you got when you grew up? Did you hear, I love you, I'm proud of you? If you did, that's awesome. Or did you hear put down messages like, change your outfit, you look fat in that? Okay, that's critical messages that stay with us for many years, impacting our self-esteem. And then how did mom and dad work through an issue? Did they yell at each other and scream, and then they screamed at the kids? Was it a highly volatile home? So we have to analyze all that. Number 3 is emotional abuse or neglect. Did that happen? Number 4, any physical abuse or hitting, rape or molestation. Now, again, these events, childhood events, could have happened inside or outside of the home. So you might have had this perfect home, but your school environment or coach misused you, right? So this could have happened anywhere. Okay. The next one is around abandonment. And I named 2 types of abandonment. The first one is fault, and then there's no fault. So a no fault abandonment is if a parent happens to die early or they're deployed for war. And I was in the elementary schools during the Iraq and Afghanistan war. And the children were just like, couldn't focus, checked out, tired, exhausted. What are they thinking about? Not math facts. They're thinking, is my mom going to come home alive from war? Is my dad and mom going to be okay? Or they see mom crying every night because dad's deployed. So this is highly upsetting for a young person. Okay, so we have to rule out everything else going on before you go to medication. So I was doing a lot of work in that elementary school at that time. Okay, so another non-fault would be if a parent travels a lot, but that's how they support their family. They can't help it. They feel they're doing the best they can to bring money home to pay the bills. Okay, now a fault abandonment is never seeing your child, being with the child, and then the couple breaks up and then you rarely see the child. It's very erratic, or promises are broken. And then after that would be being in the house physically, but emotionally detached. You don't go to the kids' events, sporting events, dance recitals, those types of things. Okay, after that, there is, if you were ever adopted, part of foster care, or had to live in another home, that's trauma 6. Trauma 7, most people can relate to. This is personal trauma. Did you feel different in any way that you didn't fit in? So maybe you were the chubby elementary school student, or tall, skinny, and gawky in high school and called the nerd. That was one of mine. Were you the only African American in an all Caucasian school, coming out as LGBTQ and peers or family didn't accept you that way? All these things fall under personal trauma. Number 8 is sibling trauma. Did you perceive your sibling to be the golden child, the favored one? So that would be like the star athlete, the better student, or the more handsome or prettier child. Okay. Another one could be a child was born with an illness, so mom and dad had to give that sibling more attention, more than you. Or that sibling bullied you. So there's 3 examples. Keep in mind, there's many more examples under these categories, just giving a few. Number 9 has 2 categories. One is family trauma, and the other is community trauma. Now, community trauma used to be number 11 on my chart, but I had to bring it down when, unfortunately, all these school shootings and community shootings were happening, floods, fires, hurricanes, displacing so many families, and then COVID hit. So that's why they're saying in 2021, everyone had trauma. And these children growing up at a time of trauma, they had to stay home from school. They were afraid when mom and dad come home from work. A lot of fear around that time frame for our little ones. Okay. And then there's the family trauma. So community impacts family. And some of the family trauma is if a parent was ever incarcerated, moving families a lot as a child's growing up. That's our military families moving every 2 to 4 years. Another example could just be growing up in a tough economy, worried about money all the time, paying your bills. Again, a couple of examples. And then trauma 10 is mental health issues in mom or dad. So that could be high anxiety or depression, but the 2 most difficult for children to navigate would be 1, borderline personality disorder. I describe that as fast trigger anger. When they're good, they're great. When they're bad, they're horrid. And you never know what you're going to get. So that child's walking on eggshells. And then the other one is bipolar, manic depressive. A lot of people think manic phase is high and happy. What could be, if they're out with a gambling spree, they're happy. And then what happens? They crash, they lose their money, and then for months they can't pay their bills. So a manic phase follows, a depressive phase follows a manic phase usually. So again, keeping the family in a lot of turmoil. So those are the top 10 traumas that I have found through my research and my work with families, school students, singles, couples. Those are the top ones.
So as you were listening to this list, do you find yourself nodding at some of these? I know that I resonated with a few of those, not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
And they really do affect not only how you're able to connect and communicate in your adult relationships later on. I see this a lot in my own practice, but they really affect stepping onto that path of parenthood, because I've heard from some of my clients, like, I was raised in this environment. It's made me, my husband wants to have this baby, but I'm not sure. Or it makes me really want to have a baby and show them the love that I didn't receive, but my partner is on the fence about whether they want to become a parent because of the story they walked in with. So even when both people are on the same page, certain themes like being a perfectionist in order to earn love can stand in the way, because you're trying to micromanage a biological process that isn't to be micromanaged.
These are great points, Adrienne. You're absolutely right. Some of the other things that adults see in their relationships, and ironically, they show up the worst in relationship.
Yeah.
So jealousy can come from trauma too. The verbal messages you got that were negative, not feeling good enough, or trauma 7 when you were bullied and called these names, okay, not feeling good enough, is the result of jealousy and control. Impulsivity, when you were denied a lot of things that you couldn't have as a child, maybe due to a poor upbringing. Let's say you became successful in business. Now you want that shiny red sports car. You go and buy it. You don't care if your wife or husband agrees. You just have that impulse buy. And unfortunately, cheating in a relationship comes under impulse as well. A lot of that I see women do is people pleasing, growing up difficult parent just to keep the peace. They're always trying to keep pleasing, and then resentment and anger build up, and it comes out in different ways. You mentioned perfectionism, exactly. Blaming behavior, always blaming your partner and unable to say, I'm sorry, and acknowledge your own faults. We all are human. We all make mistakes, but if you can't apologize for them, that is an issue as well. When you have abandonment issues, this is where codependency comes in, or feeling very insecure when your partner is away. So there's many different other results, but these are just a few.
Absolutely. So these stand as energetic roadblocks when people are trying to conceive, because we remain hypervigilant in some way, whether we're conscious of it or not. And especially as the female partner who would be carrying the baby, and I'm talking about assigned at birth, right? I have a disclaimer at the beginning of the show, but we're talking about biological function. When the energy of that is to receive, and being able to receive can be very hard, because when you're hypervigilant, that opening, that softening to receive can be very alarming, because you feel vulnerable. And when you feel vulnerable, you feel unsafe. If you don't feel safe, then your primal brain goes, I can only survive or procreate, and I'm always going to default to survive. And so conception doesn't happen.
That's right. That is the truth. And going back to caveman and cavewoman brain, I always explain to my men, in a volatile relationship, the number one thing your lady needs is to feel safe. Must feel safe, emotionally, verbally, financially, in every way. She has to feel safe to be able to connect. Otherwise, whatever she grew up with, if she didn't feel safe as a child, That cortisol is going to be up, the nerves are going, and procreation is down. Exactly. And, the men's caveman brain, if you're interested, they're geared and hardwired for attraction. So I always say to my ladies, keep the attraction factor. What did you look like when you started dating? Yes, aging is going to happen. We all age, but try and hold that together throughout your relationship. Because very sadly, the baby comes. Great, everyone's thrilled about the baby, but then the couple starts falling apart. And a lot of couples come to me with children, and I'm like, before you divorce, please do everything in your power to keep this family together. Let's do the coaching. Let's heal your trauma A, trauma B, which is in each partner. Understand the trauma in the relationship and heal that. And then start giving mindset exercises to both of you to practice and teach your children. Now we have an empowered family.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And now we will take a short break from our episode to share an offering that will take your healing to a whole new level. How would it feel to stress less, feel more spaciousness in your body, all while reducing physical symptoms? I can tell you from personal experience, it's one of the most empowering and freeing experiences one can have. Rebel Remembered is a year-long journey using goddess archetypes, body wisdom, and ancient modalities to bring a level of health to your body unlike anything else. As a Chinese medicine practitioner, it has always been clear to me that the emotional body is at the root of physical symptoms in the body. This program is truly holistic, addressing physical symptoms by exploring spiritual and emotional themes, much like this episode. This opportunity only opens once a year, so be sure to get on the waiting list for when enrollment opens this fall. The link is in the show notes. And now, back to the show. So, if you were to leave our audience, I know it's a lot to unpack in one episode, and I feel like we could do so many to really do deeper dives into each of these topics. But if you were to leave our audience with a final thought, what would that be?
There's so many things to share and teach, right, Adrienne?
I know.
Teaching. But mates, now is the time to create the life you desire and have the love you deserve. And if your partner won't go to get help, you start. Very important, because then they'll see you're serious. Then they'll see you are starting to change, and they're going to want a piece of that, right? So very important you start. And there is a foundation of the emotionally healthy, evolved, and conscious relationship. If you'd like, I'll just give a couple of points from there. So page 294 on Love Beyond Your Dreams book. But the first begins with two people having a solid foundation, the ability to trust yourself and the other person. You like who you are, you love who you are, you're proud of who you are as an individual, and so does your partner. When you both are feeling your very best individually, then you are a power couple. These are the 5 F's. Fidelity, you have honesty, loyalty, and integrity, meaning doing the right things when nobody is looking. Flexibility, you're open-minded to let your partner have their opinion, whether you agree or not. This was huge during the vax or don't vax time or during the presidential election. Let your partner be their individual self in these things. Fun, you gotta have fun. Get out there, start dating again. So many people that come to me, I said, well, when was your last date? They can't even remember. It's like you should be dating twice a week, okay? 2 on the weekends or 1 midweek and 1 on the weekend, because fun is that glue that keeps you together. And spirituality was the number one thing. Shared spirituality, I'm not talking religion. That's spirituality is who you are 24/7. Be your highest and your best self, both people, and your relationship will be amazing.
I love that. That's so beautiful. So if people are looking to connect with you in your work, how can they find you?
The best place to start is my website. It's my name, rianamilne.com. On there, I have the childhood trauma checklist and 4 other quizzes you can take for free. I have free book chapter downloads of Live and Love Beyond Your Dreams right there under books. I have self-help courses on there. My podcast, I have 126 shows. It's called Lessons in Life and Love with Coach Riana Milne. And my YouTube channel has like 360, I think I'm up to, audios and videos, lots of education for free. Start there. And if you want to work with me on my homepage, just reach out, do a Life and Love Transformation Discovery session. It's on super promotion right now. And I will meet with you personally for 2 hours to get this journey started and your blueprint put together to start having the life you really desire.
Beautiful. I'm so grateful that you came on the show and shared your research, your wisdom, your guidance, all of this beautiful education with our listeners. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really hope it was helpful today.
Absolutely. And until next time, everybody. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Reproductive Rebel. Reproductive Rebel is recorded by certified peri-steam hydrotherapist and acutonics practitioner, herbalist, and Chinese nutritional therapist, Adrienne Irizarry of Moon Essence LLC. If you are interested in setting up an appointment for one-on-one support, ordering from our store, or checking out our course offerings, visit our website at moonessence.life. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and get insider information on upcoming events and offerings. Join the conversation. Like and follow us at Moon Essence Me on Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Your voices make this program possible. Thank you all for your continued support.